Welcome to Bangkok, Thailand. I'm Cal, and today we're talking Thailand travel, visas, relationships, work, relocation, and day-to-day life here in the kingdom. This is our Q&A video where I answer your questions. Let's dive right in. Our first question, do you think that we'll miss the mark during this tourism high season? So to give a little bit of context here, the tourism high season runs from November through to around February. The weather is more moderate, it's not the rainy season, it's generally ideal for travel here in the kingdom. Now thus far, Thailand's had something of a lackluster tourism year during the low season. The question is asking, do I think we'll have a recovery in the coming months? And to be honest, I think we'll probably continue to see lower tourism numbers throughout the rest of 2025. Western arrivals are steady, but Chinese numbers are still way down, and there's no sign of a strong rebound. Now, I've covered the decline in Chinese tourism at length in my previous video. For a more detailed explanation, I recommend checking that out. But if you're planning a trip to Thailand, fewer visitors will actually make for a more enjoyable experience. If you're anything like me, you're probably not going on vacation to be surrounded by other tourists and crowding out every tourist attraction, so less is usually more when it comes to planning your holiday. And keep in mind, we're still talking about 33 million projected tourists in 2025, so it's not like you have empty streets or attractions. This is still a very, very busy tourism environment. It makes for an interesting analytical topic here on YouTube, and I like to cover it to talk about it. But when it comes to planning your trip, you could probably ignore these numbers altogether. Next up, we have a question about visa policy. I get questions about visa policies all the time due to a lack of clarity on media, social media, and sometimes even from government announcements. So Ricky's arriving in Bangkok for a 60-day stay. Now currently there's a 60-day visa exemption. That means you can arrive in the country without a visa and stay for up to 60 days. And you can actually extend that for an additional 30 days. So you can stay in Thailand for 90 days total with that extension. But we always have rumors floating around about changes to visa policy, and his question is whether or not the Thai government would give the announcement well in advance of any changes. And the answer here is yes. Any policy changes are normally announced well in advance to avoid disrupting anybody's trips or plans. But currently there aren't any official conversations about making changes to the visa policy, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Next up, is April a good time to visit Patong, and is there a good time to change currency? April is Thailand's hot season, and temperatures can reach over 40 degrees Celsius or around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so it does get really hot. And in the middle of April, we have Songkran, which is the world's largest water fight. It's a lot of fun, and it's a real bucket list experience, but you will get wet and it is very messy. So it really comes down to your individual preferences. I like April, but I like the heat, and I love Songkran, so it's a nice month for me. Depends on what you're looking for. For currency exchange, don't overthink the timing. That doesn't really matter, but make sure to use one of the currency exchange companies that you'll find all over the country. There's Super Rich, Happy Rich, O Rich, Vasu. Just check for the best location ahead of time and you'll find excellent rates there. They'll beat anything you'll find in your home country as well as any of the bank rates here. What are the best places to find deals on attractions, hotels, property, and flights? For attractions, Klook and Viator are excellent. They have competitive discounts, verified reviews, and generally they'll help you to avoid any dodgy tours. For hotels, I like Agoda, but try browsing incognito with a VPN set to Thailand. Prices normally drop when you're searching locally rather than from the US, Canada, or Europe. For longer stays, check RentHub. You'll find service apartments which are a cross between hotels and condos. They're single buildings which offer weekly and monthly rentals, and this can be the perfect option for longer stays that aren't quite hitting that 6-month threshold for a condo lease. And for flights, I use Skyscanner. It's broad and usually has more flights than Google, but try comparing between them both and even check smaller sites like trip.com. Is using Airbnb safe, and are there any key risks? So Airbnb exists in a legal gray area here. Rentals under 30 days in most condos are technically illegal unless the building is licensed as a hotel. Suffice to say, nearly all of the Airbnb listings do not have a hotel license. But enforcement is very inconsistent. And there are two main issues that you want to avoid if you choose to use Airbnb. First, some buildings ban short-term rentals altogether and have very strict policies. You'll see signs everywhere and you may even be questioned by security. But some hosts will still list these condos on Airbnb, and they'll even send you instructions on how to sneak in. This definitely isn't ideal when you're paying premium prices. And second, bait and switch scams can be relatively common, especially in places like Pattaya. You book one unit and arrive to find a totally different one. You could even book a 2-bedroom unit and arrive to be offered 2 much smaller and inferior 1-bedroom units. In this situation, you'll need to cancel and dispute the charge with Airbnb, all while looking for another place to stay on the spot. And that's why this scam works. A lot of people simply accept it and move on. If you choose to use Airbnb, only book with hosts that have a lot of recent positive reviews, and never send any payments outside the platform. What's essential to bring from the United States if you're renting a fully furnished place? Now, this answer will apply for anybody inside the United States, Canada, Europe, Australia. But generally speaking, you don't want to bring that much stuff. Shipping can be relatively costly, especially if you choose air freight. And then you'll also need to deal with customs, which can add a whole other level of annoyance. And the truth is, you can buy almost anything you need here in Thailand. This is a very globalized marketplace. But there are a few things that you may want to bring with you to save money or hassle. High-end electronics tend to be more expensive in Thailand. Brand name shoes and clothing can also be more expensive, and it can be hard to find larger sizes. Vitamins and supplements are also more widely available in Western countries, and they're normally cheaper there. But my main advice overall is to travel light. Your condo will normally be fully furnished, and it's very easy to buy almost anything else you'll need. And you'll have the ability to move around, change locations. That's one of the nicest parts about living in Thailand. It's very easy to find accommodations, to move condos. It's not a lengthy, annoying process like exists in Western countries, and you really don't want to limit yourself by having too much stuff. Here we have somebody who just moved to Bangkok on a work permit, and they're looking to settle in, meet new friends, network a little bit. My advice here is to start building a productive routine before chasing new social circles. Once you're settled in with your work-life balance, you'll find it easy to meet new people. Bangkok has endless social groups, Facebook, Meetup, language exchanges, sports clubs. Just be selective. Consider your own hobbies and interests and find clubs on Facebook or Meetup that are related to those. And you need to be a little bit cautious because there are plenty of hustlers in a city like Bangkok. Some foreigners frequent the Bangkok meetup groups looking for new and relatively naive foreigners. This is the instant best friend type, and they can be very intrusive and suddenly be involved in all aspects of your life. And within no time, they'll be bringing up money or investment opportunities. And that should always be your cue to exit. Bangkok attracts its fair share of opportunists, and it's best to keep your guard up, but don't get too paranoid. Are there any walking or hiking groups around Bangkok? And any tour guide recommendations? The Bangkok Running Club is one, and that's a casual Facebook group started by another creator that you can join for free. And for hiking, there's Bangkok Urban Hiking Meetup, which organizes monthly walks. If you prefer a private tour, you could check Hidden Bangkok or go check out Bangkok Pat's Tours. He's another YouTuber who covers the history of Bangkok. Very informative, very knowledgeable. And again, Klook will have tons of reviewed options for any budget. Next up, we've got a prospective retiree looking for a place to live for a family of 3 with a budget of 16,000 baht. Now that's a little bit of a tighter budget for a family of 3, but you can definitely find accommodations. You can go a little bit further along Sukhumvit to Onut, Prakanong, or Bang Na, where you'll find cheaper accommodations with 2-bedroom options. Across the river, you'll find Thonburi. You'll get excellent value, and it's a very quiet neighborhood. Or to the north, you can find Thailand Cultural Center and Hoi Quang. Again, excellent value, very proximate to central Bangkok. Now, each of these areas is very different, and I strongly recommend that you come to Bangkok and actually tour the neighborhoods first, and then narrow it down to the best condos within a specific neighborhood that match your budget. As a teacher, was it difficult to find a position in the beginning? Now for me, not really. I actually stumbled into my first job here. During my travels, I met some teachers on a night out, and they eventually introduced me to a university that happened to be hiring, and I got that job almost immediately. But at the time, I was finishing my master's degree, and I had previous university teaching experience in Canada, so it was actually quite a good fit for me. And later I moved into an international school, and that was a little bit more difficult. Those jobs offer Western level pay packages with plenty of benefits, but you need a proper teacher certification, and generally the application process is much more rigorous. And for typical ESL jobs, the hiring process can be much easier. You can go on ajarn.com and you'll find plenty of job listings, but the salaries and benefits tend to be a lot lower. Now, if you're planning to teach in Thailand, make sure to bring your degree, your transcripts, and a background check. These are normally requirements for any position. And avoid dealing with agencies. They take about 30% of your salary, and they normally just forward your resume to schools. It's a bit of a scam. I'll do a full video on teaching in Thailand very soon. It's been on the back burner for quite a while. I've been meaning to do it. I will get around to it in the next month or so. What about work for the average person? This is a very ambiguous question. Most of the jobs in Thailand are protected and only available to Thai citizens. So most foreigners teach in Thailand because there's a need for the English language there, and so you can bypass all the restrictions. But you also find jobs in tech, marketing, management, but you do need to jump through a lot of hurdles. You normally need proper degrees and significant experience. These days, one of the best options is definitely getting the Destination Thailand visa and finding remote work. How do I manage my time as a teacher, YouTuber, and parent? Sounds very busy, and yes, it is very busy currently. I follow a very strict routine. I wake up at about 5:30 a.m. almost every day. And at the core of it, I have very limited daily goals that I try to meet. So if we factor in a 24-hour day, that means you can sleep for about 6 and you have 18 hours to get everything you need done in a single day. And I often think about it in line with the military. People have the capacity to do far more than they think they can. And when they're put under pressure in a situation like the military, they do it. So why not adopt the same mentality for yourself? Next, we have a question about relationships with a Thai partner. Now, my girlfriend is Thai. Now, I met my girlfriend all the way back in 2016 originally. Now, she speaks English quite well, although there still are language gaps. And I would say one of the bigger gaps is actually the cultural gap. And probably the biggest challenge on the cultural gap is how problems are addressed. In the West, we tend to be taught to call out problems quite quickly, whereas in Thailand, the face-saving culture and the idea of not burdening others can mean that most problems don't actually get addressed. Now, each mentality has its pros and cons. In the West, we do tend to progress a little bit more forward with lots of big changes in society, trying to address and fix problems, but we can also be in conflict with each other all the time. And conversely, in Thailand, things don't change very much. People tend to avoid conflict and avoid bringing up problems, and so a lot of issues do get unaddressed here, and it's something you'll learn about if you live here long term. But within the society, there's a lot more harmony. It's more relaxed, more sabai, chill. And I think the key to navigating this is compromise, is trying to understand each other a little bit better and the cultural backgrounds and differences. I think having an intercultural relationship does make you reflect a little bit more on your own belief systems, why you think the way you do, and you have to understand others a little bit better. So it is a learning process, and it can actually be very enlightening overall. Next up, we have an Aussie with Thai heritage who's looking at moving back and perhaps becoming a citizen. I'd recommend coming for a straightforward 60 or 90-day visit at first. That's very easy, and you can experience the country. Then you would want to decide whether to go through the full citizenship process. The documents you'll need will depend on the Thai consulate near you, and it will depend on which documents your mother still has. But it's definitely doable. And you'd apply for citizenship by descent. We got a question about the OA retirement visa and whether you need to have 800,000 baht in your bank account if you can show proof of income. And no, you don't. It's either or. If you can show the 65,000 baht proof of income, that will satisfy the requirement. And you can also use a combination of the two as long as it totals to 800,000 baht per year. Just keep in mind that the income verification process can be a little bit annoying, so go check with the consulate ahead of time. We have a comment about my Q&As from somebody who asked a question previously and I didn't answer it. I normally copy and paste all the questions from the Q&A post, but unfortunately YouTube sometimes hides questions randomly. This happens on posts, on videos, and I have no idea why they do this. So sorry about missing your question, but actually it's probably not my fault in this case. As always, I'll post another Q&A later in the month. If you have a question, leave it there and I'll try to answer it as long as YouTube doesn't delete it. Have a great day.